In Brixton, members of the local mosque have booked a recreation centre to host a conference. The Brixton Mosque, also known as the Masjid Ibn Taymiyyah, follows a strict orthodox Islamic tradition known as Salafi. Men and women are segregated, women are covered, celebrating birthdays and even playing music is discouraged. They don't accept the label, but outsiders often call them fundamentalists. The London bombings are the subject of the Brixton Conference. It's been called by local Muslims to condemn in the most forthright manner all use of terror and indiscriminate killing. Theirs is a religion of peace, they say, yet they realise with the current media and political focus on terrorism, many non-Muslims think all orthodox or fundamentalist Muslims are potential bombers.
And you're much more aware of the fact that people are looking at you and perhaps seeing you in a certain way and judging you in a certain way, which is not very pleasant.
They might call out to you, "Oi, Bin Laden."
Or they may stereotype me with perhaps suicide bombers.
It can either make you withdraw or make you even more determined to tell people the truth about Islam and truth about what Islam says about those types of activities. Otherwise the hype takes over.
We'll be judged according to what we did in this life. So those who did good, they'll receive good, and those who did evil, they'll be punished.
During the Islamic holy month of Ramadan, we'll hear how they warn the authorities of what might happen and how they are themselves involved in a religious struggle against the fanatics and are employing some surprising weapons in the fight against terror.
Thank you all for taking your time out to attend today on Masjid Ibn Taymiyyah's conference on terror. To my left and right we have some of today's speakers. We have the media secretary from Brixton Masjid Ibn Taymiyyah, Abdul Haq. We have the Imam of Masjid Ibn Taymiyyah, Umar al-Jamaiqi, and one of our guests today, Abdul Qadir, who's from the Luton Call to Islam Centre. On the whole, the Brixton community are very welcoming to the Muslims in this area because in general we think we add value to Brixton. Obviously in recent times things have been strained. After 9/11 globally there was some perceived problems with Muslims at that time. 7th of July and 21st of July hasn't helped, and the media coverage hasn't helped.
Omar Urquhart from Jamaica is Brixton's imam.
Due to maybe the different occurrence that is going on in the world, especially with the Muslims, where they've seen that some of the lands of the Muslim have been invaded and attacked by non-Muslim women, children being killed, slaughtered, then they feel a sense of helplessness and a sense of anger, and they try to respond, but in a wrong way.
The Brixton Mosque has close links with several other British Salafi communities. They share an image problem. The notorious shoe bomber Richard Reed used to attend the Brixton Mosque, as did Zacharias Musawi, who has been accused in America of being one of the 9/11 conspirators. The London bombers set out from Luton. Guest speaker is Abdul Qadir Baksh from Luton's Call to Islam Centre.
People strapping bombs around them, blowing up tube stations and here and there. This suicide bombings has no place in Islam.
1991 was when we started, when we noticed the extremism amongst certain youth, and the preachers that they were listening to were the likes of the people who have been hyped up in the media recently, like Abu Hamza, Umar Bakri. These preachers who preach a complete distorted form of Islam are responsible for a lot of the youth going astray.
Abdul Rashid helps out with youth projects and Brixton's conferences.
I'm a steward. I'm just walking around making sure everyone's okay. If I can help anyone, helping some of the sisters or the women with their pushchairs up the stairs. This is my wife Aisha. She's come to the conference. She's helping out in any way she can. This is basically the conference about terrorism. It's talking about the stance and the position of the Muslims.
The conference organisers hope their message of peace will reach the widest audience. They know that the Islamic life they lead will seem strange to many non-Muslims, all the more reason to engage with the wider community and explain what they really believe. The next day, Abdul Rashid and some of his Muslim brothers travelled to Notting Hill, and as the carnival crowds went home at the end of the day, they handed out leaflets.
We're distributing these leaflets. We're near the carnival. We're not quite inside the carnival, but we're giving these leaflets out to the crowds, basically clarifying issues like terrorism, what is Islam, what is not from Islam, clarifying misconceptions. So we're here just to distribute the leaflets for free to the people.
Whatever people believe, whatever wrong notions are coming out, it's your job as an individual Muslim to right those wrongs. Otherwise the hype takes over. The demagogues on TV who are saying Islam says this, Allah says it's okay to do that, who are actually not telling the full picture or not even telling the truth, they get all the airplay. And the people who abhor those actions and who are terrified by those same people end up being silenced.
It's one thing to put the Islamic case against terror to the wider public, but the people who really need to be targeted are the potential suicide bombers themselves. And they're often drawn from disaffected members of the Muslim community itself. It's a huge challenge.
We've been talking about this Brixton Mosque, which has been condemned as, I suppose, what you could call the hotbed of fundamentalism if the tabloid press would have its way.
After the conference on terror, Radio London interviewed Abdel Haq from the Brixton Mosque.
People ought to know that you condemn terrorism without having to resort to a conference to condemn it.
The Brixton Mosque and Islamic Cultural Centre have actually been quite vocal and pivotal in condemning extremist interpretations of Islam for some time now. However, unfortunately, there have been some sections of the press, for some reason they've seemed bent upon sort of kind of portraying the mosque that as being a kind of insidious and anonymous secret kind of, haven for extremism.
And why do you think that is?
Firstly, because of the shoe bomber incident, and also the Zacharias Masawi, and these elements used to live actually in the local Brixton area. However, to kind of try to link the mosque to that, no, we absolutely reject that. These were people. The mosque itself is actually well known for its understanding of Islam, which is the Salafi understanding of Islam, which rejects all kind of extremist or erroneous understandings of Islam which have crept in.
Perhaps it's the same elements of the press that describe you as radical. How accurate is that description of the Brixton Mosque?
You might say we're stubborn in adhering to Islam, yeah.
Fundamentalist.
Yeah, however, but does that mean now that we're people who incite people to violence and to, hatred within the communities and we're wreaking havoc within society? No, absolutely no. Absolutely, totally opposed to that.
It's difficult for Muslims to deal with the public and media's image of Islam when they too find it hard to understand the motives of suicide bombers. Naima Robert is a Muslim writer.
I have no understanding of suicide bombers whatsoever. I think the only thing is that you have zeal and someone's fed you the wrong information. I think that's what it boils down to. Someone told you that you're going to paradise because of this and you have zeal, you go and do it. It's not something that you question, it's not something that you think about, it's not something that you actually ask, well, hold on, is this person telling me the truth? Is this really the case Islamically? You're young, you're foolish, but as for people's individual motivations, I can't understand it.
The thing that is compulsory upon us, the thing that is of utmost priority for the Muslim, is for us to try to explain to Islam to as many people as possible, so at least they have the opportunity to hear of Islam, see the beauty of Islam, and hopefully, and give them the opportunity to accept Islam. So this is our duty and responsibility upon each Muslim who have that ability to give a clear, proper explanation of Islam, to speak to as many people as possible. And not only by way of even books that can give a proper understanding of Islam, whatever means that we're able to deliver this message, it's of great importance that we should try our best to let as much people know of Islam.
From the outside, the Brixton Mosque doesn't look like a religious centre. It's made up of two ordinary townhouses in a street just off the main shopping area. It's right at the centre of one of Britain's most ethnically diverse areas, in a district with a volatile past. Not many years ago there were serious riots in Brixton, and the area has a long history of poverty, deprivation and a reputation for street crime. Abdurrahman Anderson is a trustee at the Brixton Mosque.
The mosque as a building in this particular place was inaugurated in the 80s. In the early 90s there was a big influx of Muslims coming particularly to this mosque. Because the mosque has been going for quite a while now, lots of children who were maybe born, for example, born in the 80s to parents who were converts, they're now adults and part of the congregation. We don't say they're converts because their parents were Muslims anyway. So we've got a lot of those second generation and some third generation. Yeah, about 40% convert, and then you would say 60% those people who were born Muslim. So it's a really broad range from all places in the world.
Some mosques, they do have sort of kind of elaborate decorations and sort of chandeliers and really kind of exaggerated designs and decorations and so on and so forth. But really, a mosque doesn't have to really look in a particular way. In fact, some mosques obviously they differ in terms of their design from different parts of the Muslim world. So, for example, a mosque in Malaysia is obviously going to have a more Oriental kind of feel and flavour to it, and a mosque in Timbuktu, for example, as well. They have in Mali they have a particular kind of West African, very unique design of mosque as well. But so mosques don't have to really have this kind of dome and a minaret and so on and so forth. So mosques actually differ in terms of their design and their structure. Yeah.
The mosque is self-financed and self-governing, and although the elected leaders have specific roles, when there are jobs to do, everyone gets involved.
Get everything which is old out from there, put it for here for now until we take it to the new site, getting that clear so that we can move the new office furniture in. So now it's just getting down to it really.
A storeroom at the mosque is being cleared out for a new office. A project is being set up to help Muslims in prison. It's a real fear that extremists could be targeting young Muslims in custody and grooming them for suicide missions. Shoe bomber Richard Reed spent time in jail, so Brixton Muslims want to identify vulnerable prisoners and offer them friendship and guidance.
And it's to help resettle Muslim prisoners when they come out of prison, and we'll be helping them with things like housing, if they have housing needs, or employment needs, or educational needs, and we'll be assisting them with those needs if we can help them with any issues or problems that they might have on the outside. We'll try to help them with that. So when they come out of prison, there's some kind of community there for them, and it's a kind of program that we're trying to be much more focused on.
At Luton, there's a similar and now well-established program.
September the 11th and 7/7 was just another catalyst to make us, wake up and say, get on with your work. You got to work more now, because their evil has spread even more. And these people who have this criminal background, they're more receptive to the ideas that are being taught by these corrupt preachers. So much wrong preaching from these people, and we've really been active trying to make the people understand that this is a wrong understanding and a distorted, corrupt understanding of Islam. They justify things like, you'll have nightmares when I tell you some of the things, but basically stealing, robbing, armed robbery, banks, bring down the government in any fashion you think is right. And so because of their backgrounds, they tend to fall into this.
The people are so diverse, but of the biggest challenges here is concerning trying to give the people a sense of direction regarding their social and their religious life.
From when I was in secondary school, for example, one of the things that I liked to do was to listen to rap, MC, R&B, garage.
Sidi Mohammed from the Brixton Mosque was born into a Muslim family, but in his teens rejected the way of life.
I used to cut my eyebrows, for example, because it was a trend. And I used to wear my jeans very baggy, and I'd pull it down. A hoodie has to be there, of course. I would have to have the bling bling, as they said. But then I started to think about certain serious questions. For example, what is my purpose in life? Because I understood even at that age that everything had a purpose. It wasn't until I read the Quran, then I discovered the verse 52, Surah Al-Dhariyat, where Allah says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that verily I have created mankind, both men and women, except to worship their Lord who created them. So after a while, Islam grew on me. I started to like it more, and I started to practice more. After a while, my friends, I became further and further away with my friends. Even though I tried to still have that relation with them, it was very difficult because they would smoke, for example, weed in my presence, and at that time I would wear an Islamic gown. So I knew that obviously it wasn't healthy for my Islamic lifestyle. So after some years passed, we started to part. I then found myself with a different group, with a different batch of people. Maybe a better batch of people, because they helped me in my religion. And they cared for me more than my previous friends cared for me.
For a person to become a Muslim, then if the person has the basic belief of Islam and he's convinced that he wants to live this life of Islam, dedicate his life to Islam, then all is required that a person, if he's able to speak, to say, I bear witness, the English meaning, I bear witness that there is none deserving to be worshipped in truth except Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger and the prophet of Allah. After these statements, then the person is deemed as a Muslim. Then start to generally learn the ways of Islam and start to adopt those beliefs and principles and practices.
So that which we find as the name of Allah, we really wouldn't throw it in the dustbin. Rather, we'd either do two things as Islam teaches us. We either burn it or bury it. So we wouldn't really treat it like any other piece of literature or any other type of word.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Abdul Rashid converted to Islam when he was at school, a year after his mother had herself converted. Latifa, who was originally from Scotland, had undertaken a long spiritual search to find the religion which she felt made sense.
The main thing that attracted me to Islam was the La ilaha illallah, which is no one's worthy of worship except Allah. My heart, I can't tell you, it was like it was beating so fast. I felt so excited. I really believed this was what I had been looking for. Don't forget, it took me, I know I say I researched this, it took a long time it wasn't just days or months, it was years. It took me to finally come to the conclusion that Islam was the correct religion. But as soon as I saw La ilaha illallah, really, my heart went 100 miles an hour, really fast. I felt like I was going to explode.
When she became Muslim, I didn't know much about Islam to begin with, or anything about Islam in fact. And watching my mom start praying and reading some books which she had introduced me to, and she was telling me about Islam. And then approximately maybe 1 year later I became Muslim as well. When I became Muslim, everything was very slow. My clothing was a few years down the line. But going into secondary school, although the belief aspect of being a Muslim, I believed in everything, but the practice came afterwards. When you become Muslim, the priority is the prayer. As a Muslim, we're encouraged to do everything in stages. The Quran, it came in stages, it didn't come in one bulk. And so therefore we acquire knowledge in stages, we enter Islam in stages.
And many new Muslims choose a new name.
My name was David before. In Islam we believe in David. In Arabic the name is Dawood. I chose to change the name completely to Rashid. I looked in the Muslim book of names, and one of the names I saw was Rashid, and I particularly liked the meaning of Rashid, which is the guider to the straight path, which is an attribute of God. It's only God who guides people, but I hope to be one of the utensils or tools which Allah uses.
First thing, when I wake up quite early in the morning, at 3 o'clock in the morning, dawn. I would pray the first prayer, which is the Fajr. That was the first thing I do in the morning is that I remember my Lord, the one who created me. I would then read some Quran, and that might take me until 5 o'clock.
I go back to sleep because I have to go to work a few hours afterwards. So I would then wake up for work, have breakfast.
9 o'clock, I would come to the mosque, meet with the brothers, have a quick chat with the brothers before we all go out to college or school or work. In my instance, I would go to college, full-time student.
I'd pray Dhuha, which is the noon prayer before work. I would go to work, I'd work. During the day, I would stop for prayer. I can go and pray in any room. And I would hopefully be at the mosque for my evening prayer before coming home, and then I would come home.
I'll be with my family, give family time. I'll sit with my family for the rest of the night. We'd sit together, probably have some tea. I would read some books with my younger brothers. We'd read the Quran together. And I'd find myself also sometimes playing with my younger brothers, sometimes challenging them in their PlayStation 2s. They can't beat me though.
So always a combination of living your religious aspect of your life and also the normal life of, earning living, going to school, and being a husband, being a wife. So these are the different things that is involved. Each person deal with it according to his responsibility and what is expected from him. So you have those who may be teachers. They have to do their affairs at school. The person who's the imam, he has to be at the masjid at a certain time, deal with affairs that is related to the Muslim life. So each person deal with his case and accordingly, but with a general principle that each person who's a Muslim, even in his day-to-day life, must follow the principles and teaching of Islam. So the person is a trader, then he's expected to trade in a certain manner. Certain things of being unjust, unfair in his trade, and these things are not expected to deal with people in fairness. These things are expected, right? If the person is a student, then he goes to school, try to prepare himself, and also try to his best in trying to gain whatever knowledge that he's seeking. Right, so different individual will function differently, but each is expected though to function within the parameters of Islam.
In between the prayers, I get done what I need to get, like for example, if I need to do shopping or go out with my mum or take my wife somewhere, I would do this in between the prayers. I teach English as a foreign language. I have many students who are Brazilian, from Japan, from Colombia, many countries, and I teach them, and they're adults. They know that I'm a Muslim. When I'm teaching a new class, I tell them my name is Rashid. The first problem is that they can't pronounce my name. They have a big problem pronouncing my name, and then this pushes them to ask questions. They ask me, am I Turkish, for example?
Islam is a growing religion, and it's not just converts. Recent events have caused many lapsed Muslims to rethink their relationship with Islam. And there's been a resurgence in attendance at mosques.
They're not being accepted by the non-Muslims here. Rather, they're being constrained. They feel they're being oppressed. So they're going to naturally look into who they are.
At Brixton, they're preparing for Friday prayers, Jummah. Muslims are required to pray 5 times every day, but Friday prayers at the mosque are a special obligation. Musa is helping get things ready.
Jummah is very, very important, Friday, Friday is very, very important. So people do ask their employee or employer to allow them for this time. You see, just half an hour.
We get about between 400 and 500 on a day because we have upstairs and downstairs are full up. Then we have the overspill outside. It's wall to wall, and that's why we have the overspill outside. I feel sorry for in the winter time when the overspill and it's raining and that. Wider congregation, we would include all those who adhere to the same ideology that we have, which includes people from Luton, Leicester, Birmingham, everywhere. And for example, when we have conferences, we'd have people come from all over.
As Brixton prepares for Jummah, the congregation is also arriving at the Luton Mosque. The Call to Islam Centre attracts a wide cross-section of nationalities and cultures, plus British reverts or converts, though not such a high proportion as Brixton.
Back in 1994, the mosque was established, but it wasn't the present mosque that we've got at the moment. It was just a room above a shop. And that went on for a number of years, about 5-6 years. Then back in the year 2000, we heard of the synagogue going for sale, and we put an offer in. When we moved to that big mosque, straight away it attracted a lot of people to start praying with us and listening to our call. And we found numbers just increased, double or treble it at some times. To up to now, 6 years on, there's hardly any room to pray on our Friday prayers. The type of people it attracts is a very wide variety of different people from different parts of the world.
Back in Brixton, Sidi Mohammed performs the washing ritual before prayers.
We wash it 3 times with the right hand first. We use our left hand and wash our right hand 3 times, like so.
For Rashid, it has to be a working day, and he prepares at home.
I'm gonna make the wudu, which is the ablution, which is the wash which you need to do before the prayer.
With the wudu, you find that nearly all the parts of the limb that you wash, you would do it 3 times, because this is what the Prophet used to do. He used to start always with his right side first, in the right hand, then the left hand, the right feet, then the left feet.
Just to make sure you're clean before the prayer. It's also like a spiritual wash as well. Before we stand in front of Allah in the prayer or in front of God, we should be clean and in a good state in front of God to pray. You can do it anywhere. You can do it at home, at work, at the mosque, anywhere. You know, you just need the water to make your wudu.
Use his left hand to wash his right foot, and use his little finger to do the through the toes.
حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر
Juma starts at the Call to Islam Centre. It's one of 14 mosques in Luton. The weekly sermon is always in English. Abu Usama used to be Imam at Brixton. Today he's visiting preacher at Luton. It's a challenging sermon, blaming traditional mosques or masjids for neglecting young people.
These traditional masjids in which the khutbah is in a language that our youth don't understand.
The majority of our children, over half of the youth of Muslims in this country, are born in this country. So that means that we have to change our method in dealing with them. We have to speak a language that they understand. You know, you can go to any of the local masjids in this city here in Luton and you'll find they're given the Friday sermon in Arabic or they're given the Friday sermon in Urdu. The majority of our children don't speak Arabic and they don't speak Urdu. The terroristic acts that have taken place, our masajid are partly responsible for that. When our youth are young and they are forced to come to the masjid, they don't relate to what the imam in the masjid is saying. They don't understand his language, nor the methodology is appealing to them. So when they become of age and they have the opportunity to make their own choices, they abandon the masjid. They divorce themselves from the masjid. And as a result of that, they find these pockets of extremists and radicals blowing people up indiscriminately.
So we have to begin, Ikhwani, to bring the masjid back to the way it was during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we have to start practicing this religion in a way that when people look at us, they get a good concept and a consistent picture about what Al-Islam is. You have neighbors, you have relatives, you have co-workers who don't know about this religion. Muslims who don't know about this religion. Non-Muslims who don't know about this religion. You have to practice the religion, and that's the best dawah ilallah.
The Brixton sermon is also in English. Women are not obliged to go to the mosque on Fridays, but Latifa says it's still a special day.
It is a special day for the Muslims. I want to talk for myself because I don't go for myself. I still pray at home on a Friday. Everyone goes to the mosque. It's a good chance to get to see some friends, if you like. It's a good chance to, when you listen to the khutbah, which is the talk that they do for the Friday prayer, it's a good way to reflect yourself again. You're getting some advice during that talk usually.
Jummah time, Friday prayer, when there's a lot of people at the mosque and they all praying the Friday prayer, the main prayer for the Muslims.
I go to Brixton Mosque for Jummah when I can. And also they do classes in the evening, they do a few activities. I'm involved with the activities both in Brixton Mosque and Regent's Mosque.
Today I have certain particular roles in the mosque, in that I do what I can, no official roles, but I try and do as much as I can. For example, Jummah time, Friday prayer, when there's a lot of people at the mosque, I find myself playing, for example, with the little children. I'll give them piggy banks, playing tug of war with them and such like things.
I was friends with the people in Brixton. And then I was given responsibility with events, which is what I was very happy with. I was given responsibility and helping out as much as I could.
The teaching of Islam that is adhered to by Brixton Masjid is that we follow the way of Islam by, first and foremost, we believe and accept everything in the Quran and in the Sunnah.
They are what you'd call Salafi, meaning that they follow the companions, as we are asked to do in the Quran. We are told in the Quran that if you have an issue or a matter of dispute, refer it back to the earlier generations. Many people as Muslims, they go to certain extremes really. Some are extremely moderate and extremely compromising with their religion, and some are extremely stubborn and they go to the other extreme. Here in this mosque, we are the people of Al-Wasat, the people of the middle path.
Luton's Call to Islam Centre follows a similar tradition.
فذكر إنما أنت مذكر لست عليهم بمسيطر إلا من تولى وكفر فيعذبه الله العذاب الأكبر إن إلينا إيابهم ثم إن علينا حسابهم Allahu Akbar.
The Salafi methodology is orthodox. Now, people say it's strict. Now, that needs to be defined. What do we mean by strict? In Islam, in itself, allows for tolerance in some areas, and other areas it doesn't. The Salafi methodology which we adhere to, which we teach, it's known to be the orthodox way. So it has a stigma or a reputation of being so-called strict. I don't like to use that word, but it's seen that way. But that's because we follow the Quran and the Sunnah strictly.
Allah says in the Quran that He has given us a perfect example in the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and the best of examples. So if He ate with His right hand, we eat with our right hand. He ate with 3 fingers, we try to eat with our 3 fingers as well. And we try to emulate, while keeping, our modern lifestyle, if you like. You still emulate because that's where the benefit is, because that's where the guidance was. He was the one who had revelation, not us. The companions were the ones when the actual Quran was coming down, was being revealed. Therefore, we do give them that respect, and we certainly don't look at our own lifestyle and say, well, we're better off because we've got cars and we have televisions. They were riding on camels. They have something that we'll never have, and which was that they were the beloved of the Prophet of Islam, just like I suppose Christians also revere the disciples because they were there with Jesus, peace be upon him, and they have something that we'll never have. So I think that's why, that's one of the reasons why. And obviously the deen, Islam, actually does show us that way, and the Sunnah is the way that we live by, and that's what governs a lot of our daily activities and rituals, etc. Where there's nothing, stipulated, then we're free to do, as we wish, as long as it's in line with Islam.
There has been a huge rise in people returning to their religion. And 9/11, 7/7, believe it or not, really did put a lot of people to become more religiously inclined. Because the Muslims saw themselves as being clearly oppressed. And when they saw this, they thought, well, why am I being oppressed? Why? And they find it's only because I'm a Muslim. What is actually happening is that people are now wanting to become more aware of what they are and who they are. They want to find their identity. They're not being accepted by the non-Muslims here. Rather, they're being constrained. They feel they're being oppressed. So they're going to naturally look into who they are.
We are told in the Quran and in the narrations of the Prophet Muhammad that they grew a beard, for example. Now, here today, you can grow a beard. It's possible. Slightly difficult, of course, because when you do go to job interviews, they label you as whatever because you have a beard. And also in modern day society, we're told that beards are sometimes a nasty thing to have. And we're told, obviously, also in the adverts that Gillette is the best a man can get. Obviously, with these kind of messages going out, it's very difficult for a young man like myself, age of 23 years old, young, active, vibrant, to grow a beard. Because obviously there are judgments made upon you. But it's possible. It's possible for you to follow the earlier generations.
Islam is a way of life, and due to the fact that it's a way of life, also it includes the way that we dress. It also affects our way of dress. So the male and the female are expected to dress in a particular way. So there's certain requirements.
To have the actual thobe is not obligatory. However, what is obligatory is that you cover your private parts. And that goes for both the women and the men. And so you just dress modestly. You can dress modestly wearing a suit. For example, you might have a baggy trousers, a shirt, etc.
In the Salafi tradition, the men and women are strictly segregated, and the mosques have separate entrances.
Men and women worship together as a jama'ah, as a group, but in separate places. This is to prevent free mixing between males and females, and this doesn't mean it doesn't allow for basic communications. Like if a woman had to go to the shop and communicate with a male, then in a public area this would be permissible. But at the same time, it doesn't allow like free mixing like a man would with his wife or his sister or his mother.
The main reason why men and women don't mix, in Islamic society and according to Islam, is to close the doors to any possible problems. And anyone who's been in an environment, because most people live in mixed environments, most people know of this one having an affair with this one, and this one being attracted to his best friend's mate, and this one, all these types of kind of intrigues that go on. Also the fact that, maybe the partner is comparing his wife to his partner's wife and finding her lacking, or vice versa. All these things lead to fitna, lead to problems. And Islam just says, look, just avoid it all, just close the door.
But other problems can't have such straightforward solutions. How to prevent youngsters joining the extremists, for instance. Abdul Qadir has a plan. 2 weeks before Ramadan, and Luton is in the news. The widow of one of the London bombers blames a mosque in the town for poisoning her husband's mind. The media spotlight is on the town's Muslims once more.
It upset me because I knew now, Luton's a hot spot, camera's going to be here again, and Luton's already had its bad share of publicity for all the wrong reasons, and now it's happening again.
We are very careful and critical as it relates to the media these days, because the media is not fair with the way that they have been projecting the Muslims and showing us.
So the last thing we want is now for a Muslim to go and do these activities. Definitely, it really does upset me when I heard it, and it did sink. Rather, sometimes it pushes us to be angry, but we have to control that anger, obviously, and it did, because we're trying so hard to integrate with non-Muslims and Muslims, and trying to make our community a safer place to live for everybody. Really hard. There's a lot of good work going on in Luton, a lot of good work, a lot of work in integration and trying to make our community a better community. Now, when I say our community, I don't mean just the Muslim community, I mean the community as a whole. We work with a number of different organisations that have no Islamic connotation whatsoever, but we're all working together in order to add value to what all of us are doing to create a better Luton. And so when we see things like this, it does make your heart sink, I suppose.
It's been tough over the months, over these few weeks.
It's become normal now. I do expect when I walk down the street, I do expect people to look at me in a disappointing way. In a way that they're not happy with me. But I've got used to it now. And
you feel the vibes from a mile off, but only when I go there and I break it down to them, and they realise, oh, he can speak English and he's okay, and so on and so forth, and everything goes okay.
Occasionally, I do get someone wanting to shout something out their window, car window at me. This is something which is, you just push it, you just blank it now, and you just get on with your life.
A passionate few, where they would act upon emotion and might call out to you, "Oi, Bin Laden." But obviously, as a Muslim, me personally, I wouldn't react to that, because I can slightly sympathise with his reaction. He hasn't known much about Islam. You find that he probably won't be. He's not a patient person, and he's probably very passionate himself. Very raw emotions, especially what happened with the bombings.
Whether the Muslims did it or not, it's been portrayed that Muslims have done it. So therefore, it does give us a lot of it puts up a lot of barriers, and especially when we're going to apply for funding for the future, the work that we do. We just hope that the people adjust and they're not going to, be influenced by the media and what they hear.
The leaders of the Brixton and Luton mosques know terror is not a legitimate weapon. It is not permitted. The fight against terrorism is religious, ideological and practical. The Luton leaders are well aware of the dangers being faced by young Muslims who fall into bad company. So the mosque has started an outreach project to identify those who might be susceptible to the messages of hate and befriend them before things get out of hand. They have an imaginative approach.
Well, this project, the Braveheart Detect Youth Project, was set up initially to engage with young people and try and help them do activities rather than being involved in antisocial behaviour, and also to try, some of the things we bring them here. For example, paintballing, we've done it a few times now, and they learn different skills there. It's not just about picking up a paint gun and shooting with it. They learn issues around team building. They learn issues around how to communicate with each other. We'll do a debrief with them afterwards as well, and just see how they felt, how it went, and see what kind of new skills that they learned. So the idea is to engage with young people, to help them to be proactive rather than reactive. Don't wait until something happens and then we engage with them. We want to get in there first and be proactive with them.
Taking them paintballing, taking them go-karting, taking them camping, taking them hiking, taking them to do all these wonderful places away gives us the opportunity to bond with them and spend quality time with them, taking them out of the environment that they were in, where they were causing nuisance and crime. And there they learn wonderful things like teamwork, communication, listening, and they even learn to advise others as well.
Obviously, before we start today's activities, a few rules and regulations to go through. First things first are your goggles. Everyone today got issued a set of goggles. They are designed to do two things, that is to protect your left and your right eyeball. Once you've pulled the gun out, please carry it across your chest. The reason why I should carry it across your chest is quite simple, because it's a safe way of carrying it. Safe for you and safe for others around you.
Sometimes we're able to open up certain antisocial ideas that exist amongst our community. We could have a group session on house crimes. They'll probably start off telling us, well, this is the best way to do it, and we can do something. But then we're able to channel all that to showing them, how wrong it is and how it's detrimental not only to themselves but their families as well as their community as well as themselves. And then we do other things like drugs. We'll start talking about simple drugs, pot, weed, and then go into other ones like the cocaine and so on and so forth. So that's the point of these activities, going out there, building a relationship and being able to challenge some of the antisocial behaviour that exists within them.
It's alright, it's better than hanging around on the streets and that. Make a lot of difference. Probably keep us out of prison or something. Just be sitting down, then you just think, let's do something. Whatever you get up to, you just smashing people's windows for no reason. It's something different, innit? Just to come around here.
Most of them would have been brought up as Muslims. Some of them would be from Pakistani Kashmiri backgrounds, maybe Bangladeshi family backgrounds, but a lot of them would come from very deprived areas. The areas that they live in would be very deprived, where there's lack of facilities and things like that.
It's not just about having fun, although that's the way, one of the tools we use to bond with them. But like I said, it's very, very important that we bond and build that trust with them.
Right, yeah. This is about fun. This is about young people using some of their aggression, their energy, and getting that out of their system as well. We know in the current climate there's a lot of talk about young people who are from a Muslim background that might get taken by extremist groups, and that is a possibility as well. So there's a big issue here about the provision of facilities and how they're provided.
Is there a danger the game may be mistaken for serious military training?
I'm sure that there's a big difference between paintballing and military training. It's about having fun. It's not about military training at all. I think that if we were to use whatever failed tactics we've got here on the paintball field in a military situation, I think we'd be dead within a couple of seconds.
Next week, Ramadan starts, when Muslims fast during the hours of daylight.